Well, people who don't have health insurance about to get slammed with higher fines under Obamacare starting next year. And for the first time, the IRS will be collecting them. This year, the fine is $95 or 1% of income, whichever is more. Next year, that fine is skyrocketing to $325. Joining us now from our sister network, Fox Business Network's Tom Sullivan, host of The Tom Sullivan Show, along with Daniel Halper. He is the online editor for the Weekly Standard. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks.
So I want to know if this is really going to come to as a surprise to people, because we knew that this would be coming down the pike. And how do you think this will translate in terms of any legislation? And I will start with you, Tom.
Well, it will come as a surprise because most of the people surveyed, only about 5% of the people even know about the deadline for signing up for Obamacare for this year. Fewer than that know anything about this penalty. So it will be a surprise, but it's also going to probably not really shock anybody because of the fact that the IRS has already said that unless you have a refund coming, they're not coming after you. So it may turn out to be much to do about nothing.
So, Daniel, do you agree? I mean, if they're not going to come after you, what's the point?
Well, I do think it's a big deal. I don't think people like owing the IRS money or feeling like they have something being held over their head by the IRS. I do think it's a big deal. I think that it's an enormous test for Obamacare. I think it's one thing to vaguely support the idea of Obamacare or some sort of health care mandate. It's another thing to have to buy into the system, and I think it changes the politics tremendously when people have to actually open up their wallets and shell out for not having Obamacare or some sort of health care, and I think people will respond negatively.
The only way they're going to know that is if the IRS does something about it, and that's the problem, is that the IRS hasn't hired the people in order to do this. They barely have enough people to keep up with the regular tax collection. This whole new division is going to overstress the IRS. Congress isn't in a mood to give them more funding for any new additional agents. So what's going to happen is, unless you have a refund coming, you're not even going to know. And I think, Heather, the big key here isn't that. It's the people that got subsidies this past year. The IRS is going to go after them. If you reported that my income for the subsidy was $30,000 and you got a pay raise, they're going to look for more money from you, and they are going to ask for that, but not the fine. That is only if you owe them money.
Well, and how are people going to respond to that in general in terms of the IRS coming after them? Because, I mean, let's go back to, the targeting of conservative groups. 68% of people that we surveyed, they don't trust the IRS. They think that that was politically motivated. So will then this translate to being politically motivated? And how do we know that it will not become that? Daniel?
Well, I think certainly critics of Obamacare will certainly perceive this to be politically motivated, even if it is written in the law. You're absolutely correct. There's a lot of deep-seated distrust with the IRS, especially now on the heels of the targeting scandal, which, by the way, has not been resolved. And so this remains an issue. There are two other elements of Obamacare, I think, that will be hugely important next year. There's, of course, the Supreme Court case, which we'll likely hear about in June or July, and there's the business mandate. So this is one of three big things of Obamacare that are coming into effect next year. I still think the verdict isn't out totally on the bill because it hasn't been fully implemented. The way it's designed is that you implement it incrementally so that nobody has to feel the effects of it right away. And so this is partly by design. But at the same time, there are lots of tests looming
or Tom, implement it incrementally so people don't really know what's in it.
No, and I absolutely agree that this is, you think the computer problem was a mess. This is as messy, if not more so. It just doesn't, it's not going to get the, we're not going to be able to focus a camera on the fact that some of these fees and penalties and everything else, we can't go into people's homes and find out their reactions to all of it. But with the numbers increasing, and consistently people have been against Obamacare, a majority of people since the whole thing was even discussed. So this still has a long way to go, especially the court cases and working out the system, working out the problems. It's going to be a few years before all of this is done.
That's my question, though, to both of you, though. As this comes down the pike and people now start feeling this in their wallets, around their kitchen tables, it's affecting, their dollars and cents. Will that translate, as I asked at the beginning, to any type of legislation with the Republican-controlled Congress when it comes to trying to, overturn this or make changes to it and address that with President Obama?
Yes, absolutely. The Republicans have stated since the beginning of Obamacare that they are against this plan, that they don't see any value in the plan writ large, and that they want to repeal it and replace it with another alternative. Therefore, they will do what they can. They will take advantage of the deep-seated distrust and about the people who are upset once they come for their money in Obamacare, and they will try to change Obamacare incrementally. But this is where President Obama's veto pen comes in handy, and it might be a slow process to peel back Obamacare for the Republicans.
Yeah, but it's not going to be some big revolt. I absolutely agree. What they're going to do is they're going to get rid of maybe the medical device tax, maybe the employer mandate, which has been delayed a couple of times. And when you start doing that, Heather, you wind up with basically stripping the guts of this Obamacare bill, and I think it's going to collapse under its own weight because it's not a product that people will like.
All right, we'll see. Tom, Daniel, thank you both for your time today. Appreciate it.